The day that was to change my life started like any other. I walked through the extensive gardens of my father, King Janak, reveling in the feel of the soft grass beaded with the dews of dawn on my bare feet. I was accompanied by the chief gardeners, for I was the overseer of the palace arbors, an unusual duty for a princess. They pointed out problems they had been unable to solve, a gnarled champak refusing to flower, a rare harshingar shriveling up no matter what they tried, a copse of bamboos with black rot creeping up their stalks. I stroked leaves, dug around roots, breathed prayers. Behind me, I could hear the awed whispers of the gardeners. Amazing, miraculous. Look, they are already healing. I tell you, she is the earth goddess herself, appeared straight out of the ground just to bless us. They exaggerated, of course, and although I had told them clearly that I am human, just like them, their veneration seemed to increase every year. All this was because of how my father found me. Yes, found. Though by virtue of my upbringing I was a princess, Sita, eldest daughter of the house of Mithila in the kingdom of Vaideha, no one knew who I was by birth. Father told us the story many times. It was one of my favorites and my sister Urmila's as well. The morning I was found, he had gone to till the field beside the palace to level it for a yajna that was to occur soon. He was fond of holy ceremonies and liked to participate in their preparation. If destiny had not placed upon him the duty of governing his people, he would have happily spent all his time at the feet of a rishi, listening to a treatise on the nature of the supreme reality. That day, however, only a few steps into his plowing, he was forced to a standstill. A baby lay in his path, newborn, glistening in the young sun as though it was a mirage. He was amazed that I didn't cry, regarding him instead with unblinking eyes. I had kicked off the cloth that swaddled me, a gold fabric finer than anything our Mithila weavers could produce, with strange and intricate designs, the likes of which no one had ever seen. Believers say the God had gifted me to the good king. Skeptics wondered which cunning person had placed me there at just the right moment to be discovered by Janak. It must have been someone who knew my unworldly father well, they whispered. Other kings would have had the child removed without considering her fate. At best, they would have ordered for her to be brought up in a servant's home. But my saintly father picked me up and held me to his chest. And as he did so, a great hunger within him was assuaged and he was at peace. This was my first lesson on the nature of love, that in a moment it could fulfill the cravings of a lifetime, like a light that someone might shine into a cavern that has been dark for a million years. The power of love. It fascinated me from an early age. I thought about it often, even though I did not quite understand what it was. My strange gift with plants was a mystery to me. Perhaps it was because, like them, I was earthborn. Maybe for the same reason, when I touched a plant, I knew its healing properties. I could tell which grasses cured headaches and colds, which seeds fended off infections, and which potions healed the shaking sickness or gladdened a long depressed heart. And so, after my garden walk, I made my way to my other responsibility, the healing house adjoining the palace. Our servants were the first to learn of my abilities and to seek my help. My queen mother, Sunaina, who was more concerned than delighted, tried to keep my skill a secret, but news traveled. Soon, people suffering from diseases deemed incurable would drag themselves across the country to the capital, begging to see me. They needed a place to stay, and finally, my mother, accepting defeat, built the healing house. Today, I examined many of the sick and instructed the physicians on the administration of unguents and potions. Though I never would have confessed this to my family for fear of hurting them, I often wondered where I had come from. Because what called to me most powerfully were the forests that I could see from the palace turrets, rain cloud colored, mysterious, full of stories. They pushed up against our kingdom from every side. No one in my family felt the way I did about forests. Shatananda, my father's chief advisor, distrusted them deeply. The forests and the Rakshasas who lived in them. He was a little obsessed by Rakshasas, our Shatananda. He spoke often about how fierce and wild they were, not like humans. They bred in darkness and practiced dark magic. They loved to feed on human flesh. They were watching us, he claimed, watching and waiting to take us over. He was always trying to get my peaceable father to line our borders with sentinels to cut back the woods. Have you ever seen a Rakshasa? I once asked. He refused to dignify my belief with an answer. Instead, he sent my father a telling look. This was what happens when you don't discipline girls as they ought to be. I was not sure whether Shatananda was right about Rakshasas, but I was certain he did not understand forests. I wanted to visit a forest someday, though I did not think I would ever be granted the opportunity. It was not something that women did. Even my mother, the most intelligent person I knew, would have been baffled if I confessed this desire to her. So I satisfied myself by standing on the terrace on monsoon afternoons, watching the silvery rain bathing the tops of distant trees. Lightning cracked open the sky, spilling its longing into me. Sometimes I dreamed that I was walking the wilderness with its swaying grasses, its leaping golden beasts, the earth mother, the way she had been before people bent her to their desires. The forest dream was not the only one I had. At other times, a wide expanse of water came to me in sleep, stretching to the horizon, filled with tumultuous waves. Wind roared over it, and beneath its surface, huge amphibious monsters waited, ready to pull anyone who ventured close into its dark depths. The scene terrified and excited me at the same time. Once, when I told my mother about it, she said I must have dreamed of an ocean. Did you ever take me to see one when I was little? I asked. No, she said. There are not any oceans near Mithila. Even our songs don't mention them. I have never seen one myself, only read of them in books. I wonder where the dream came from. She kissed my head and sent me off to play, but I could feel her watching me, perplexed. I knew the real question in her mind. I wonder where you came from. My martial arts lessons, which I loved, were secret because my father abhorred violence of any kind, even when it was necessary. My mother had to force him to rally our troops when, every once in a while, our neighbors took advantage of his peace loving nature and encroached on our territory. She was, in some way, the real ruler of Mithila, sharp of intellect, clear of vision, balancing kindness with justice. Often, my father brought particularly thorny problems of state to her. They would discuss the issues in their bedchamber late into the night, and the next day he would do as she counselled. But she never let anyone outside the immediate family know this. Soon after I had told her about my ocean dream, my mother asked if I would like lessons in self defense. I was surprised but delighted. I loved the idea of being a warrior. I asked if Urmila would be joining me. I was very fond of my sister, though she was quite different from me, always wanting to play with dolls and dress up in mother's jewelry and entertain the daughters of our ministers or visiting dignitaries. No, my mother said. Why me? Then I asked. I sense that your future is going to be different from that of most princesses, she said. It might take you to dangerous places where you will need to defend yourself. But let us keep it a secret. I happily agreed. Every day for the next few years, mysterious women from the hills that surrounded our city came one by one, wheeled against curious eyes to my mother's personal courtyard to teach me. They didn't train me in the use of weapons, but what they taught was better. How the body itself could become a weapon, and how the opponent's body, its weight, its awkwardness, its ignorance of your strategy could be used against him. I learned to move like a panther on the hunt, to run and leap and climb in silence, to fall the right way without injury, to accept pain when it came. The women did not spare me, and I often ended my lessons with bruises and aching muscles, and sometimes a sprain. But they would massage me with unfamiliar herbal oils afterwards so that my hurts disappeared, and as I grew older, they taught me how to make these oils. My mother was our only spectator. She watched in silence, neither praising nor chiding nor expressing concern. But today, when after a strenuous fight, I backed my teacher into a corner and kicked out her feet from under her, forcing her to raise her hands in surrender, Queen Sunaina smiled. She hugged me to her, sweet and all, and said, "Now I am as much at ease as a mother can be, sending her daughter out into the wild world." Her words sent a shiver through me, part excitement, part fear. "I'm not going anywhere, Ma," I said, hugging her back, letting the smell of the jasmines in her hair wash over me. "I'm going to stay with you always." But we both knew that was wishful thinking. Girlhood was as ephemeral as a drop of water on a lily pot. Soon I would have to leave all that I loved: parents, sister, palace, garden, the healing house, to take my place in another family, which I must then call mine. That is the lot of daughters, commoner or princess. Thanks for listening. Now, some word power. I walked through the extensive gardens of my father, King Janak, reveling in the feel of the soft grass beaded with the dew of dawn. Beaded. Beaded with means covered with small drops. I was accompanied by the chief gardeners, for I was the overseer of the palace arbors. ARBOURS arbors means a shady garden alcove with sides and roof formed by trees or climbing plants. They pointed out problems they had been unable to solve. A gnarled champak refusing to flower, a rare harshingar shriveling up no matter what they tried, a copse of bamboos with black rot creeping up their stalks. GNARLED, gnarled means rough and twisted because of old days. Copse, COPSE, copse means a small group of trees. He was amazed that I didn't cry, regarding him instead with unblinking eyes. I had kicked off the cloth that saddled me, a gold fabric finer than anything our Mithrian weavers could produce. SWADDLE saddle means wrap someone, especially a baby, in a garment. Thanks for listening.